Good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be here once again today. Okay. So continuing from the last class, I believe we were able to touch quite a number of things from the last class, and I believe we're able to practice. Even though I didn't see much of the submissions on Discord by someone by Joe Design. Kudos to you. I really appreciate that. I dropped a message for you personally. Please just reach out to me immediately you get the message. So to continue with today's class, I would love you can drop questions if you had any question from previous classes into the comment section. So along the class as today, I'll be able to trash it along. But today we'll still do more on Photoshop, and I was trying to expose one or two things to us that we can work with. And if you are with me, let me just see one or two reactions in the comment box as we dive straight to Photoshop once again today. So I believe we've been able to demystify the seemingly add Photoshop from this thing is hard, something at least you can do one or two things on. Is the sound any better now? People are complaining of echo. So you know we are in Nigeria too. There will be a bit of background noise. It's because Jen is directly that house here too. Please just deal with us today. In as much as you are able to hear my voice and you are able to pick my voice clearly, just let me know that you can hear me and hear everything I'm saying. So straight to Photoshop, please. You can share my screen too. I'll be waiting for our questions and all as I move into things I plan to touch today. So there's something you should have noticed that we've been doing probably since the class begins. Anytime we need to paint one or two things, so let me quickly talk about brush. I'm not sure I mentioned it. I've talked about it enough. So brush is basically for painting. It's for painting anything you want to paint, whatever you want to paint, the color and everything. So let me just rush through it. So let me create a new layer. I believe everybody by now should know how to create a new layer. Okay, audio fees, more Joshua, thank you, really appreciate that. So we have this like this. So let me create a new layer, new. I press Control N or Control Shift N. Control N is new document. Control Shift N is new document. Is new layer rather. So depending on the color I have up here is what will be painted. So let me have an empty this thing like this. So we are having it this soft being painted. You notice this soft painting that we are having. Why? Because if I go to the brush settings, which is up here, you know, I mentioned from the first class that anytime we are trying to use a paintbrush or any tool in Photoshop, this particular panel changes with regard to the tool we are using per time. So don't let me go to that. So we can easily change settings from here. So if I come inside this place, there's brush settings. So and let me open Windows and brush settings. So this is all these are the brushes I have on my laptop. Then the one we are using presently is this 30 pixel. Once the 30 pixel size, the hardness 0, spacing 25. So how do we do that? Share you see. So this is what that one is doing. This is the brush. So you can use it to paint. If I'm using a graphic tablet, it will have been easier. You will see things being done at least a bit better. So you just click and drag. Then if I want to increase the size, you notice the moment I'm increasing the size, this brush preview is increasing here too. You see, then I have it like this. Then for the hardness, you notice that the edges are soft, not crisp clean. but let me increase the hardness to 100%. You could see from here, you could tell. So share you see. Now the spacing is in 25%. You could see um, you could see the flow in the edges. So let me bring the spacing to 0. So you see how smooth it is now. It's because we are saying there should not be space between our this thing. So let me imagine I want to create a line of dots. So shift, click again, holding 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 shift. So I have this on one layer. I can easily reduce it like this. I mean, there's really nothing we cannot use to do anything depending on anything we want to do. Time. There's a whole lot of settings there. One thing I will advise is, as I believe as you grow, as you watch more tutorial, you will find applicable instances. So all I'm just doing is, this class is more or less a beginner's class. So some advanced stuff is not meant to be more or less touched. Okay, so we are good. Thank you. So scattering, if I want to scatter things, you notice that you could easily see what is happening from here. Count, you see. So if I paint now, you see. When you have developers that don't have work as friend. So we could easily have things like that. AY. So I'm just doing anything. So dynamics transfer, especially when you are using, you see pen pressure, when you are using mouse, pen tilt, stylus, and all these things. So they come into play when you are going deeply into that. So there's pencil tool. If you want to something like this, then you can easily come here, increase the pencil size. Then you see, then I can do the same settings for that one too. Then there's color replacement, there's mixer brush. If you want to do retouching, like you want to do your frequency separation, there was a point where you will need the mixer brush to transfer your light so that it's evenly distributed. So it's a whole lot of things you will see as much as you do specific work. Okay, so Photoshop does this at times that it just crash on its own. Okay, I'm still waiting for questions in case there's any question you have for me. But in the absence of that, I will just move ahead with what we are doing in today's class. So I believe over time, in the course of this class, you've been able to gather one or two knowledge as regarding things we are learning, and we'll be honest with you, quite a number of feedback has been coming in, some encouraging, some say this thing is still hard, but I mean the race is kini. How did they say that thing? Remind me now, manager. Tough time doesn't last, but tough people do. So Photoshop cannot be tougher than you. So that's just by the way. So let's just continue with today's class. So I've been able to touch on brush, and it's just for us to use it to paint. So I click brush now, and I don't really have anything to paint it on because I'm having a text layer and a background layer. So it's more or less like there's really nowhere to paint it. If I do it like this is destructive because I will not be able to edit it. But if I come back and I create a new layer, and let me just do brush once, I can easily scale it up or down. I believe everybody knows what I'm using to scale, but that's Ctrl T. So there's a particular, you most likely will have seen it somewhere before. I've opened those things down before. you'll have seen this dual tone effect before. I just want to show you something just to explain brush. I believe everybody still remember everything we mentioned when we were talking about what's it called, the last class, when we were talking about blend modes. So on this layer now, what do I want to do? Let me pick my brush, but before I pick my brush, I want to turn this image to black and white. So this adjustment is one thing I believe we've touched in the last class, so I can touch black and white. So we have this. So what I'm doing here is, okay, this black and white, I don't want it to apply to everything that I have on this layer. Imagine my background is something of this color, and I want this black and white not to apply to everything the way it's happening now, but to apply to just only this layer. What do? I will clip the black and white to this one. Now if you press Alt on your keyboard, Alt or Option, Alt on keyboard or Option on Mac, and please can you hear me zoom in into this place so they could see what I'm doing here, into this particular layer region, sir. So between black and white, there's a thin line between them. Once I do Alt, you notice there's the mouse change, the cursor change, which is a layer and an arrow pointing down, which means I want to mask the one on top to the one underneath. I want to mask the one on top to the one underneath, so I can easily click in between them like this. So you notice that the background has been isolated from the black and white effect. But another way of doing it, on this black and white adjustment property layer, you notice anytime we select any adjustment, this particular portion of our design changes. Then please, can we scroll up so they can see the bottom part? I want to show them something down here. Thank you. So there's this icon that is more or less the same thing that this thing changed to when we press the Alt and we are in between it. This thing that is changing, so this symbol is saying I want to clip the layer on top to the one underneath. So this is what this one does. So you see, we've done it again, then we can see. Thank you. So we can zoom out back. So I have this, then let me change my background. So let me probably use a gradient. I believe we've touched all this the last class. In case you don't understand what I'm doing when I come down to this side to pick my adjustment layer, kindly ensure you watch the video from the last class. I'm certain you will be clear on what exactly we have going on. What we did in the last class. Let me use trees, or let me use grass. With this work, no, let me use grass. This, okay. Then let me use blend mode. So let me create a new layer on top. Then B. Then I want the blue, this side, to have that blue feel, to have a dark blue. Then with my soft brush, that is hardness of 0, once you right click, it brings up that option. Then my foreground color must be the blue that we set. So once I paint like this, you see, then let me create another layer, and on this other side we pick a warm effect, something warm, maybe something close to this. Then I do something like this. Okay, I noticed something is not meant to be showing like this. Why? Because our opacity, if you look up here, opacity is 50%. Then let me bring it back to 100%. I can easily come here and type 100. And one thing you should know is, if you are on any brush tool that requires opacity, once you press any number, it takes you directly to that opacity. So I pressed 4 and my opacity is 40. So I press 5 now and it's 50. I press 6, it's 67. Now if I press 6 and 7 together, it gives me 67. So if I press 7 standalone, it gives me 70. If I press 8, it gives me 80. If I press 9, it gives me 90. If I press 0, it takes me back to 100. So we need 100. So once I do this, let me create another one, and let's do blue for this other side. So select, do soft light till we check which of the blend mode works well. Let's do screen. So we will clip it to this particular layer. Clip. So let me do screen for this one too. screen or no. So I believe you get the idea of what I'm working on. So color dodge, color dodge. Let me give it a black background. Let me drag this one underneath it and return it to normal. So you have a feel of what I'm trying to do, such that the color on the subject is not exactly the same thing on the two sides. I can easily control the colors that comes on my subject per time. So and I press Ctrl T and reduce where this one is impacting from. Ctrl T. I mean, you have the liberty to do almost anything you want to do with this. So just follow me. So I mean, anything I want to achieve, I can from this place just keep going and keep going and keep going till I get everything I desire or I'm looking for. So basically that's that about that. So I believe you get the idea of what I'm trying to explain, just for you to know what's possible and what's not with your tools in Photoshop. So basically that's that about brush. So we can easily move to what's it called, we can easily move to our filters. So I want to touch on filters today briefly. And I mean, these things are just experimental. Anything you want to do, let's check the filter gallery. Now it's saying that my subject cancel. Okay, let me select. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to apply filter gallery to this particular image. So there are some things you will see that seems out of scope and you wonder where they do it. It's most likely combination of things from here. So let me do filter. So we have this, then a whole lot of options. So just free come and play with it here. So this is looking more or less like all these contacts, filter paper and all. So just play with things around here. Then we can do film grain, we can increase the grain, the highlight area, the intensity. So anything you want to do, if it's neon glow that what to do, you can change your glow color. And don't forget, we are applying this thing as a smart this thing. You know, the first thing I mentioned in our first class is anytime you are applying any of these effects, make sure you are applying it smartly. Why? Because that's a non-destructive way of editing your pictures. After doing all these things I'm doing, I can press OK. It will have been added to it, and I can easily come here and turn it on and off, and I'm still back on my original layer. So with this, I can come to this particular point. You notice that anything I had will be listed here, just the same way we have our layer styles, just the same way our layer styles behave. Every effect I had, every filters I have will be added here underneath here. So I can double click this place and change the blend mode, to anything that I want based on any effect I'm looking for. I don't know, they should have done this one in such a way that once I hover over it, it should preview it, but I mean, they don't want us to be doing that yet. I hope they put it in the next update. Yeah? So basically, reduce the opacity to get anything you want. You can come to you can come to filter again, add any other thing. We've talked about this. Then okay, let me talk about camera raw. Okay, so I'll come back to camera raw. I believe some people following this class are photographers. There are some what's it called? There are some effects that not necessarily effects. There are some editing you might want to do on your pictures that camera raw filters might just be the best. Instead of adding so many layers upon layer, you can easily just do it once and for all inside your camera raw filter. Camera raw filter is like a collapsed version of Photoshop Lightroom. I mean Adobe Lightroom inside Photoshop. So it's easy for you to just work around things there. So we have okay, what do I want to do too? I said okay, should we do camera raw? So let me load up camera raw and let's see what will happen. So in my system is hanging like this. I've been using it over time and I've not restarted. So here you can do your warmth, color, temperature depending on what you want to achieve at times. There are times you just know that the mood for this design just needs to be really cold. If you want something really warm, you can easily come here. And this is something that we do most times after we are done with design and we want to easily just move things around and do an overall color grading to your design. I will still explain what I mean by that. We'll just do a simple design today. If you have a suggestion on what you want us to design, you can drop a comment on that. I asked if there's any question, but it seems as though everybody is cool with what we've been doing all this while. There's really no question per se, which I'm really glad at least. But down on the other side might mean that maybe some of us have not been practicing, so we've not been encountering one or two challenges. So which is why I said okay, well, let's use this coupled with our class today. Let's have it as an interactive session as well. So you can most times you notice how smooth the face is becoming too because we've reduced the texture. So please don't overuse this thing. You know I'm saying it. I'm always an advocate for simplicity and minimalism. When you're adding these things, don't let it be too much such that it will now destruct your image and is destructing only if you want to achieve an extreme effect. So I can bring up my clarity. Imagine my texture is high and my clarity is high too. You notice the way all the image is looking so close to us, and I mean depending on anything I want to achieve, depending on the mood of my design. Vibrant, these ones are to adjust the colors. So what does vibrance does? Vibrance look at your image and looks at the colors that can be uplifted in the mid-gray area, not necessarily the already blown up colors. So you just use that one to calculate what it needs to bring up. So, but your saturation doesn't clear. It saturates everything. It increases all the color and we are looking like color. So we have a whole lot of things you can play with here. You have your curves. So you can easily do your S curve, bring this one up, bring this one down, just to achieve a bit of contrast. So let me reset. And if you want to reset some of your settings, don't double click on the slider, it takes it back to 0. Double click on the slider, it takes it back to 0. Double click on the slider, it takes it back to 0. And you can come here, short, auto, white balance. So this is you telling Photoshop to use its discretion to adjust those things for you. Then you have color grading, so you can shift this. I'm shifting towards blue. You notice there's more blue in my design. I'm shifting towards orange. That's in the shadow. So it is splitted into. So this is gray area. So this is my shadow. That is the black region. If I want the blue to be showing more in my black region, or maybe I'm trying to remove anything. So for example, we have blue already in my black region. So and I need to remove the blue. All I just need to do is move in the opposite direction of that blue, so that color will cancel out the blue. So that's just the way this thing works at times. So this color will, I believe people that are into video will do more of this when they are doing color grading in all this. Premiere Pro, After Effects, and all. I do a bit of that too. So we can click blending to see how we want to blend it in, like that. So many other things, calibration, effects, and if you want to increase the grain, vignette. So vignette is like you're adding black around the edges. If it is negative, it brings black. If it is positive, it brings white. So basically, we still see more into that. So I didn't click OK. So we are still left with our filter gallery, and I can turn it on and off. So let me come here, filter. So we talk about filter gallery, camera raw, lens correction. Lens correction is basically you are trying to adjust your camera this thing. I think that as need arise, you liquify at times is most people overuse it, which is the reason why. Share you see, I'm able to adjust the nose a bit in and out. Photoshop is really so. You have face aware liquify where you can select face one, so it automatically share you see it's giving me the shape of the face. If I want to adjust anything, maybe the way the picture was snapped, the perspective was not so okay, and I need to adjust it, or anything you want to do. You notice all these smart movements. If the eye is too wide open, I can easily come here and do this. This is really exciting. This is not good though. Let me just undo it like that, then like that. Then I can easily pick a brush. Then once I do this, you notice. Once I do this, you notice. If I do this to the face, so this is complete destruction. The model that modeled this thing should not see us doing this to his picture. Might obviously sue us. So I'm just trying to. This is an exaggerated effect, anyways. I'm not sure any clients will want you to do anything like this for them. But you know, don't know what happens. We get clients from and get weird requests from clients at times. So basically, that's that about that. So that's what you use Liquify for. Then we have all this 3D blur, but this blur is something that I use regularly too, like quite often. So we have the blur, we have the average blur. So what does average does? So for example, I have this image like this, and I go to filter, blur, and I click average. So what the image does is it calculates the whole image, the colors in the image, and it gives me the average color in it. So let me click average. You see, it gives me a singular color, which is the average, the average color on the image. So from this, you could notice that the image is what is warm from this average. So basically, that's what that one is for. So I have this copy. The last time that we were doing God is good, when we had this thing, the shower, the waterfall, we did Gaussian blur on it. So let me put this image I just brought in and convert it to smart objects, filter, blur, and let me do Gaussian blur on it. Sure, you see it's blurry because the radius is too high, 318. So let me bring it down. You see that it's blurry like this. Then I can click OK. So the another advantage of your smart filter is that I can easily come on this smart filter Gaussian blur, and I can paint out areas I want my Gaussian blur to be applied and areas I don't want. So now you notice that everything is white, and you notice that everywhere is blur the way we want it, which means, when I was explaining layer mask, I said white means review, black means hidden. White means review, black means I want to hide something. So once I click my B, and you notice that once I click it, no matter the color I'm selecting, this my foreground and background color changes to black and white depending on the tone. So if I click out, you notice we have this blue and this orange. So once I come back to it, we have black and white. So if I'm painting with white, I will not see anything. You notice I pick my brush and I'm painting with white, I will not see anything. I will not see any change, rather, because everything is white already. But let me click on my smart filter and press Ctrl I. Ctrl I means invert. So which means if everything is showing Now if I press Ctrl I, it means to hide that effect on everything. You notice that the moment I press Ctrl I, the blur left. So if I press Ctrl I again, it brings back the blur. If I press Ctrl I, it shows back, it hides the blur. So I can now use my white brush to now paint, okay, the regions I want, I need the blur. So maybe I need it like this. I can do it like this. So I can easily come into the Gaussian blur and increase it, knowing fully well that is affecting just only that upper portion. Once I click OK, Gaussian blur, increase it, share it. So that's that about that. I can easily come in back and paint this down part black again, because I just want the maybe something like this, and maybe I want to type nature up here. Notice we don't really have anything underneath that is serving as an obstruction to our design, so to say, like that. Let me give it a bit of saturation. It's looking too dull like that. So we're able to have this. I can clear out the trees, reduce the brush, then change it to white, something like this. So depending on how I want it anyways. And I can paint with brush with that has a bit of opacity in it. So basically, so this is it. So it helps me to manage my image layout, I mean the contrast. So levels, depending on anything I want to do. So we could have it like this. Then my stroke, some part of it are not showing again. So I can easily, so you notice that I'm just going around the mono the color palette is just around more or less a singular color. So basically, so I've been able to use this to explain Gaussian blur. For example, if I'm doing something that requires speed, for example, let me do 1080 by 1080. For example, we have food delivery, so let me just search for delivery. Oh, sorry. So we are just doing delivery. I believe everybody can still see my screen. So for example, if we are dealing with delivery, so let me just go to, for us to get good image, let me just use Unsplash. Unsplash, then let me search delivery. You notice this thing is starburst effect. They can easily get it with in photography. Once you just make sure that your focus is on the bike man as it's moving, every other thing in the background will get blurry. But how do we do this kind of thing in Photoshop, for example? How do we achieve it in Photoshop? So let me search road. No, let me just do Firefox. So I won't have any intervention. Delivery bike, delivery bike, delivery bike, what's it called, PNG. Okay, image. So sorry, because I have something in my head I'm trying to, so it's like more or less like an idea conflict. What I would just want to show you is motion blur. Motion blur is applying the blur on a motion. I'm literally saying the same thing. Oh God, help me. So let me just use this. I'm not getting what I need with that. So once I have this, I can easily do Control J, come on this layer. So I'm having two layers now, one at the top, one underneath it. So let me apply my filter on that one, filter blur, and we have the motion blur. You could see the motion blur already. Then if I increase it the more, you could see as though it's speed that brings it to this point, and you could see the wind coming right after it. You see, so this is motion blur for you. You could easily see the whole thing coming to the side like this. So that's motion blur for you. So what else? So motion blur, you can turn it on, turn it off, chasing depending on the length you give it. You can rotate it in case you don't want it to just be on the horizontal. Once I rotate it like this, let me press OK. You see, it's going up. So that's just the options we have there. I believe everybody can still hear me. So we have the radial blur. So basically I use the Gaussian blur, radial blur, surface blur too, basically. So if you want to know what these things work for, you could easily come in and just play around with it. You will see the effects. There are a lot of resources online you can check out to just see how those things work. So that being said, so what else are we checking here? We've talked about, and we have the blur gallery. Blur gallery, okay. So we have the field blur. So our layer is on this particular one, so I can, and how much of blur I want, which area do I want to start the blur, another one here, another one here, another one here. So depending on, for example, where's that my nature image? So we have nature like this. Let me duplicate it like this. Stay woke. Stay woke is correct now. Yeah. So it's more or less like Jimasu. So let me use button. So what color are we using for this? So let me try and see if I can pick up a general background from this one. If I don't want us to use the white, so let me just click solid color and maybe something from our main subject like this, and the stay can put So Ctrl J, Ctrl E. So what do I want to do? I matched the two layers, the stay and the work together. So filter, blur. Let me convert it to smart object too, in case I didn't get it at once. I'll be able to edit it. Filter, blur, motion blur. So I can have the same effect on this one too. So I can decide to put it at the back. So I might need to increase this one to ensure. So these ones too. Let me just use something that is in that direction too. So we know that everything is going. Let me to be on the safe side. Let me check the angle. So let me say we are using 30. Come to this one, put 32. Then to the stay work, put 30. So everything is rotating at the same angle. So depending on what we are trying to achieve per time, this still needs a bit of work because it's not looking balanced yet. So after doing all this, if I press shift alt command E on keyboard, it match all the layers, all my visible layers together. So you notice that we have everything. So if I do convert to smart object, so I can easily come to filter, then okay, our camera raw might seems to be to make a bit more sense here now. So I open camera raw filter, and I can go to basics, reduce the contrast, increase the contrast, the white, the shadow. Let me bring it back, the highlight, okay, vibrant. So let me change. Do we want warm or cool, or anything we want as regards what do I want, what am I tinting it towards, which direction? Effect, increase grain, then apply fignet around it. You see the way we've changed image that we have from Photoshop, what we have directly from Photoshop to something way more different now. So a whole lot of things you can achieve with all these things. Let me go to gesture and increase my texture, increase clarity. Let me reduce texture, so everything will not just be looking wobbly. So depending on what we need per time, we can achieve. So see the camera raw filter, see where we are coming from, see where we are. So what we've done is just to make it look a bit more retro or something too, and I can easily come here and drop the opacity of my effects if I don't want it to be that strong on it. So this is where all this thing comes in beautiful. So we have this, so we are in between what we did in camera raw and what we have here. So basically we can just play around and see what we can do. So we have our nature, we have stable, so that's for motion blur. So we have the smart blur, then we have the distort. This distort is really an interesting. Let me do 1080 by 1080, and let me see if I can. So free, let me search free clothes background. Some of these things are things I've opened down before because my Photoshop crashed the other time, so I had to searching it, but guess we know better as time goes on. So let me just do pixels. I think that's the first thing I'm meant to be doing itself before coming straight to Photoshop, just to in Google, just to search. So clothes. This thing should load though. On splash. It's MTN we are using now. If you know of a better network in Nigeria, I mean Ibadan to be precise anyways, but MTN seems to be the best. I mean, well, so we have Unsplash, we have Pixabay too. Pixabay. So this is me giving you sources of images. All the images on most of these sites are free. Okay, this has the wrong link, and you have Pixabay. 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 So Pixabay. God bless you, sir. So this Pixabay, let me just search for clothes background. I'm not getting that wavy feel that I'm looking for. This network is just terrible today. Okay. Let's try this. Let me copy this. Copy image and come into Photoshop. Ctrl V. Enter. So this is what I'm using, but I'll have to save this one first. Ctrl Shift S. PSD, because this is what I will use as my displacement map. I think we are talking about displays. Music, design class, displays. So for example, let me type clothes on this. No, let me use wavy. Ctrl T, and instead of using, let me use Gotham Pro Black, something like this, and reduce this one to -75. So from here, what do I want to do? So I want to displace this one, filter, blur, distort, and displace. Convert to smart object. Yeah, sure, you see, they are really smart. So okay, then he's asking me what I want to displace it with. You know, I already picked this before, so once I click okay, you see the way the clothes is being displaced according to this thing. So let me go to my layer mask, my blending this thing, then this layer, let me do blend if to something like this to make it look as though the clothes is on heat. Is it this one I'm meant to do? No. Let me bring them back and let me try the one underneath. So all I'm just trying to do is just to make it feel as though the clothes is imprinted on it. Sure, you see, is looking more or less, the highlight is showing through it, and is looking more or less as though the clothes is together with them, whereas they don't know themselves from Adam, not from anywhere. So I can do this. So I believe everybody should be able to replicate this effect. So what I did was simple. I typed my wavy text on it. I typed my wavy you come down Lola, sincerely. That's MTN. No. So what I typed my wavy text on this, then I displaced it. So after coming to filter, display, which is distort, then I click displace. But before doing this displays, I already create this thing using what's it called? I already create a displacement map. That's what they call it, a displacement map. That is this same image. I've saved it out, and once I click on distort displays and I click OK, then he asks me which displacement image. Then I click on my displace PSD, then I open it, then I have it here already like this. Then okay, after adding it like this, I wasn't having it this then I go to my blend mode, then I use my blend if. This is what I had after doing the displacement map. Then Okay, oh, I didn't mention something. If you do it like this, you notice that it's clipping it off. What it's trying to do is the highlights portion of the underlying layer, use it to mask the image on top. But I don't want it to just mask it off like this. I want it to shine through it, like a smooth blend between them. Then I press Alt and click. So pressing Alt and click this, split it in such a way that I can easily do a smooth blend. And you see the light shine through it too. Basically, we have what we need. So yeah. So basically, we have wavy, we have stay woke, and we have nature. So just using this concept, we are creating more or less like a mini posters out of it. Um, so that's distort. We are presently on um, distort option, filter, distort. Then we can do the polar coordinates, we can do the ripple. You all remember one thing I mentioned in our first class. I remember when I was teaching you selection. Let me see if I will get this thing. So I just have this one here, like this, control T, and I have it like this. Then let me do my single column selection, and I have it like this. Right click, then I do layer via copy, control T, then I have something like this. Bringing this one up and bringing this one, we have something like this. Then I can easily come to you can easily come to Jeffrey, you had no idea. So you can easily come to distort. Let's check what polar coordinate does. So you see it rotates this thing. So once I click OK, and we can have something like this. Depending on anything I want. You will have seen these things in poster designs, Pinterest and all. If you are a fan of Pinterest, someone that checks Pinterest very well. So you notice that I have just a straight line, and it's more or less, it's looking more or less like this thing has already helped me to rotate it. So that's polar for you. So I can easily do anything I want to do. You get now? This we just vibe into it and just trying to see what can come out of it. Wait, is this afro, or what should we call this here like this now? Is it dreads? Is it dreads? My people here have left me alone. No? So we can do something like this. So I'm just, if you notice everything I'm doing, I'm just making sure that okay, these things are not being taught in isolation. It's not just so. I'm doing drop shadow underneath here like this, and let me reduce the opacity of this one. Does it need let me do outline for this one. Do you remember the way we did stroke the last time? Stroke, and our color should not be too far from any of the thing that we have here, and I will drop it underneath that one, underneath this one, and I can have it for it not to be too clumsy, and I can drop the opacity and all. On this one I can add shadow, drop shadow too, something. Wait, is this the spelling of dread? Is having S at the back? Thank you. So I will have to edit all my layers. S. The thing is looking more or less like plague. So I think I should just delete this stroke, this shadow, and this one. Bring this one in, and the layer underneath, let me put a mask on it and blend it in black. Can easily have something like this. then this color, so it will not be standing too alone. Since the emphasis is on the head and the hair, so we can easily do something like this. So this is we just trying things out, and I mean design can be fun at times when you don't have brief and client is not on your neck. Who else agree with me? So mm, so let's continue. Filter. So touch polar coordinate, ripple, twirl, wave, zigzag. So almost all of them. This polar coordinate rotate it. This one cause ripple on it. Sharing, I mean people that did physics, the share this thing. So not to just take much of our time doing this one alone today. Then let me just pick something else in Pixelate. To be honest, wow, this 5:30 already. Wow, time is far spent. Wow, 30 minutes. The way time jump when we sit here like this, only God understand. Color half tone. You will have seen this thing before. Once I click OK, shall you see? I'm having this thing. Bring this one underneath this one, then you can easily have this and use it to do anything you want to do and place things around for your effect and all. Filter, pixelate, we have crystalline, mosaic, pointillism and all. You can just go through it. You see the way I did what I did just now. I create a new layer, then paint a brush on it, something like this. The paint is on it. If you look at my layer, so and I go to filter, pixelate, so it turns it to pixels. If this one is not bringing me, it's not showing me effect, so that's why it's always good. Let's convert to smart object, filter, pixelate. These things, it's not compulsory you use it in all the designs. I'm being honest with you. It's not compulsory you use it in all your design. Just make sure you use it when it's needed before you start forcing yourself and design start looking like something else. Please, don't say I did not tell you. So all I'm just doing is so you not be novice or ignorant, or you see something that you like and you feel this particular style depicts what you want to create very well. So you see the way it turned my image, or not my image, this person's image, or this polygon, this thing, and we have it like this. So basically that's that. You can just play with that around, render video. You can do a bit of video this thing in Photoshop too. You can animate a bit in Photoshop, but we might not be touching that because of our time. Basically, we might not be we might. I'm not sure we'll be touching that anyways. I'm not sure we'll be touching the video option of Photoshop, but it's something you can easily get if you just do a quick search. Then okay, let me quickly do something. Firefox. Let me minimize it to another window. Sunset nature image. Images. You see beautiful pictures everywhere. Awesome. And if you are doing image search on Google, let me just use large. You go to tools, size, and you pick large. I'm looking for one that has things like trees on it. Let me use this. I just want to use it to demonstrate something too. There's not anything serious. Control V. Okay. Then I have this on this. Right click. Then I'll convert it to smart object. Let me come to filter. Then under our stylize, there's a whole lot of things you can do here too. I'm being honest, but particularly let's just do oil paint. How many of you have seen this thing before? These oil paint effects, and you can move things around to cleanliness. If you don't want it to be clean, very clean. At which scale? Bristol detail. At what scale? This thing is looking more or less like painting. Chasing. Any way you want it, you have it. You get. So, for example, let me bring an image on top. I'm looking for a man's image that looks a bit old. Someone is saying me. I don't understand though. Eternity Part Media. So what's wrong? Why user? Let me just use this, not to waste our time. And if you've noticed something since morning, the last effect that we use will always be the first thing here. So if I click oil paint, did you see that? Okay, if we do it like this, no, this thing. So this more or less like a children's event that they want to tell them the story of Adam in the Garden of Eden. What actually happened? Was he given the fruit or? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So it's quite a popular effect. Thank you, Eternity Media. So, which color can we use? Picking color at times. So what actually happened? So I think this font is not doing justice to a children kind of feel. So you might need to look for a playful font. I can't remember anyone from the top of my head right now, but I know I do have some. Please, can anybody remind me if I do handwriting? Okay, something like this is not too bad. So I can repurpose my design to be something like this. So you notice that it's as though our fonts too have character. There are some that looks really mature that can be used for a corporate event, and so let me reduce the leading, that is the line height between the two. So I can have something like this. Adam and the apple in the garden. In the garden. Uncle, what happened to Adam? So even uncle did not know. So that's me just trying to fill in the background. Don't mind me. So at this point, uh, ee- Photoshop right now. So I have enough of, yeah, the light. So we will actually still adjust that. So which one can I close? Let me just close this and save. So in the garden, this one. So there's always a trick we can always use. So I will come on this original layer, then come to the levels or curves. Which one should we use? Let me use levels. So I can do something like this. You notice that the beautiful effects we're having on our background is gone. Then this is not advisable. All we are trying to do is we are trying to this one said find Adam in turtleneck. Okay. So you can have it like this. So what else can I do? I can easily drop a shadow underneath this one. Control J. So I'm having two Adam and the harp now. So I'll bring one a bit down, then change the color of the one underneath. You see. So with this, I'm getting my contrast back. I can easily see what I have. Then I can make it a bit darker to create the contrast. Then on this one, let me add a stroke of the colors around here, colors that are not too far from what we have, so it looks coherent and is not looking foreign and different. So this still not looking good yet, so let me reduce the tracking because the font is jamming kind of. So I will have to do the same thing on the image I have underneath, so -50, so it looks good. Then if I'm still not satisfied, then I can employ the use of my shape and draw it underneath, but you make sure that the color is not something that will be looking as though. I think I'm getting somewhere close. Ctrl J. Okay, so one thing I didn't mention to us is the fact that we can type around a particular part. So I've duplicated my circle. We are not just having one circle. This one, this two, this one, this is the second one. So I want to type around this other one just to create something out. So I'm just typing full stop to create like a ring of circles around that text. So let me increase the space in between to around 200. So let me hide this layer. You could see that ring effect that we have on it now. So I can change the color. So Ctrl J, Ctrl T. I can increase it again and probably drop opacity or do anything I want. So I can apply layer mask on this. But because the background is light, it might not be really useful too much like that. So since it's just to bring up the distance, the contrast such that our Adam will be a bit readable, but seems I might need to drop the opacity of the Adam underneath. It's looking as, or maybe the stroke, one of them is not making it look so attractive, and the Adam on top I can change the color to something that is not so much on it. So this we can we can keep doing this just to make sure that we balance the color and we get something that is right and looking good. So that's where everything we've learned come into play. So please, I really want to see more. When I see people do more, participate more, that's the way you encourage. So just try your hands on these things. I know you might not be able to be doing it as we are doing it now, which is understandable, because we won't be able to do much if I'm waiting for everybody to do something before we continue. So that's why you have to do something once the class is over. And don't be shy. You see, nobody starts as a master. Everybody learns and we grow. So don't be shy of anything you are doing. Don't be shy to post it on the Discord channel or anything. There are times it looks not as good as you have it in your mind, but the thing is we are not in your head. But just show us what you've done, then we'll be able to say that okay, to achieve what you have in your head, oh, can you just do this, can you just do this? So I believe with that, so we can easily do things around and just make sure that we get what we are looking for. So you can make this better. Let me just do Ctrl Shift E. I'm merging all the layers and converting it to smart objects. I can close some of this one. This wavy, I believe everybody gets it. So let me do to few do things. So we can contrast things, clarity, days, something. You see the way the thing is coming out pretty nicer. So we can reduce or increase the exposure, tint it in which direction. Do you want the blue fill or anything, depending. This is we just trying to put things the way we have it. Please don't distract me, edge of. So you could easily have it like this. You see that the contrast is a bit better now. So that's why Photoshop is there for you. This is we just playing around different themes of design, what we can do with things, what we can do and undo. So basically you have this. So let's go again. What else can we do? If you notice the way I'm teaching, we are having more of class, putting things into place, how we can handle contrast and without necessarily having to do some of those things. So if there's really no other question for today, so let me just check what else do I have here. So basically I've touched basically almost everything here, like the basic things you will need in your day-to-day design. So basically thank you very much everybody for joining us for today's class. I really appreciate. Thanks for your time. Once again, I would love to encourage you. I know that doing design at times is not something that comes to us like there's challenge, there's all this going on with it. I mean, it's a creative process, it's a new terrain you are trying to navigate. I'm just using this to encourage you, don't give up. There are times it seems so difficult and it seems as though you are not getting it. It seems as though you are wasting your time. The growth is more or less like an ogive curve. There's like an S curve. At some point it seems very slow, and at some point you will shoot, and it's one thing that I know, that efforts compound over time. Efforts compounds. It's not something that you just do in one day and you drop it because you are not getting it and hope that when you are coming back to it then a magic will have happened. No, you have to be consistent, put in the hard work on a daily basis. Thank you very much everybody for joining today's class. We really appreciate your time, and thanks so much for tuning in. For people that will watch it after, please, if you have any question, try and find a way to drop it on the Discord channel. I'll be more than glad to put my own assistance in any way I can. But thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. Please like and subscribe. If you have any friend that you know that needs any of these videos that we are doing here, please make sure you share it with them. Thanks so much. Like and subscribe, and don't stop designing, at least not anytime soon. Thanks so much. Peace out. Till we see any other time we are seeing next. There will be class tomorrow too. Thank you. Why not?